Hi guys and welcome back to another video. My name is Sukhmani and today I'm interviewing Faraz Yasin, who is currently articling here in Vancouver, and he is also a success coach for internationally trained lawyers who do decide to move to Canada and start their journey of becoming a licensed lawyer in Canada. So hi Faraz, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good too. So, I'm sure all the people who are watching this video, they want to know a little bit more about your background. What was your undergraduate in? Where did you do your law degree? And how did you get your licensing done here? And what you're doing right now?
Okay. So, first I'll just introduce my own background, family background. My background is from India. So my background is from originally from Hyderabad, India.
Mhm.
Although I never grew up there, I was born in the Middle East. Um, so, most of my life has been spent in Canada. And that's where, I did my first undergrad in 2014. I decided to do an undergraduate degree in political science, as a Bachelor of Arts. At that time, I didn't really have an idea of where my career was headed. And I was interested in, things that happen around the world. So I did political science, and I think it was at the end of my third year, starting my fourth year, where I was trying to decide on what's next. What do I do next? Do I do a master's? What do I do a master's in? Where do I go from here?
Mhm.
And I was thinking, okay, maybe I want to work in the government. And I was thinking of applying to a master's of public policy, at different universities. This was in Ontario. This was when I lived in Ontario. So, I used to apply to U of T, Queens, and all these kind of other universities. During that time, I was approached by this or group called Law Canada Law from Abroad. So these were like a bunch of lawyers who had gone to the UK to study law from Canada and
Mhm.
then come back to Canada. And I found it quite interesting because I'd never thought of being a lawyer studying law, but here I was being told that I could maybe study law and not have to do LSATs, which you have to do LSATs in Canada if you want to study law. And it's also very hard to get into law school here for like the JD.
Mhm.
So I said, why not? And I went to the UK for 2 years. I lived there from 2018 to till 2020, and I did my LLB there.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to come back to Canada because Canada was home. And I started looking, at that time when I was doing my LLB in UK, I started looking at what the process is back home in Canada. And it took me a long time to understand exactly what the process was. And then eventually I figured out I had two options. I had three options, but realistically two of, either doing the NCA exams on my own or choosing a LLM Common Law and doing that. And I decided after a lot of debate to do the LLM Common Law at UBC. So that's where I applied and I got in. And then I started that in 2020 and I finished in 2021. And yeah, after that I started looking for articles, and yeah, that brings me up to to now.
So I get a lot of messages from people who have the option that they can either go for the NCA exams or they should do LLM instead. They often ask me about the pros and cons. Like, does it help to have like Canadian education? So someone should just go with LLM, or is there like a certain stigma attached when you are somebody who comes in with the NCA exams?
Yeah. So I can say there are not many cons with the LLM. I can say there's one con, and it's very big, and that's money. It's very expensive.
Yes.
I would say that is the only con with the LLM. Um, and because the other pros of an LLM are, first, you get Canadian education. So when somebody looks at your resume, for example, at least I had a, bachelor's degree in Canada. So at least I have that. So, I have that kind of advantage. But if somebody comes with no Canadian education, at least they'll be able to say, okay, there's a master's degree studied in Canada, which is always beneficial to see, like, okay, Canadian education. And
Mhm.
then there's also, if you do an LLM here, you spend 1 year where you're studying, you're kind of meeting the requirements for NCA, as well as getting Canadian legal education. You have 1 year of networking. You can build your network through the law school, through the career center. You have time where you can relax. You're not stressing about you have to study for the NCA exams, you have to do the NCA exams. It's already done for you, where you just enroll in courses in the LLM, and you just have to pass those courses, and you will satisfy the NCA requirements. So you can focus on other things like networking, like building a network, like getting career advice from the career center, on resume, on cover letter, on how to talk to lawyers, like how to ask them out for coffee. So you can focus on all of these things. Maybe even get a part-time job, like you can get a part-time job, you get Canadian experience. Um, with the NCA exams, there's one pro. I mean, there might be multiple pros, but the biggest pro is it's cheaper. There's again, it's like a flip side of the coin. It's
Yeah.
cheaper. You could do it in a shorter amount of time. And but you don't get the Canadian education. You don't, when you do an LLM, you are put into a Canadian like environment, like an educational environment. You understand like how they write, like how the Canadian legal writing, how that is. You understand how they speak, Canadian legal professionals, how they conduct themselves. You have 1 year to kind of adapt yourself into the culture, the Canadian legal culture. If you do the NCAs, you just don't get that opportunity to be able to. So you like, there's a culture aspect of like being around an environment which is like a Canadian education. Everybody, there might be JD students there that you might come across. So you see how they speak, how they think, so you get to know like the mentality of the people. So like all of that, I think you kind of miss out on if you do NCAs. But then again, like it's just paying that big amount of money. But yeah, if somebody, if I would say, if somebody has the financial ability to somehow um pay for an LLM, my recommendation would be doing an LLM if they have that.
What's it like studying in a Canadian university, a degree, like a master's in law?
Yeah. So I would definitely say it took me like one term to like understand how they grade your work. So the kind of marking scheme and what they look for in like answers. So all the exams are open book in the LLM. All the exams are open book. So you can have all the notes you want. The real test, the exams are trying to get you to, what they're trying to test you on is your ability to identify what legal issue that is that they're asking in the exam. So it might, for example, if it was I took an immigration law course. So if it was an immigration law exam, they'll just be like a fact pattern. Like there's this person's name is, I don't know, like Ahmed, and he lives in blah blah blah. He lives in Dubai, and he has these many children, and he wants to move. And now it's just advise him. The question will just be advise him. So now you have to figure out what applies here, what cases apply here, what the legal issues are here, and then advise him, give the legal advice. All of that has to be done in like exam conditions. So yeah, even though it's open book, you need to have that skill of knowing, okay, where I need to go in my notes quickly to find the answers for this. So it took me like one term to figure that out, because that first, like it was new for me. Like the LLB which I did, it wasn't like the exams weren't similar to this format. So it took me a while, but eventually it was fine. Like I think like I'm not super intelligent. Like I would say like, if I can do it, like I think people can do it. It's not completely impossible. Um and there were people in my class who had part-time jobs as well, who are able to manage with that. So yeah, I think it's completely doable, even if it's, part-time, you're working part-time, and yeah.
One question that I always ask all my guests is that um, sometimes people, when they're done with NCA, is when they start looking for the articling position. So now you joined the master's program. So how soon did you start thinking about where I'm going to article, who do I need to approach, all of
Yeah.
those?
So I think when I was in my LLB in UK, I kind of had a I kind of had a feeling that it's never too early to start looking for an article, or never too early to start creating a foundation for you to be able to start looking for an article.
Mm-hmm.
And because looking for an articling position and getting an articling position, especially as an NCA student, is very difficult. It's like for Canadian law students themselves, it's very difficult. It's very competitive. So if you take into account like us, it's very difficult. And so here's my answer to that. I started, the reason I really got active on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
was because of this, was to start building a network around myself for the future. So this was, I think, when I was starting my LLM, maybe even before that. So between my LLB, finishing my LLB and starting my LLM,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I really improved my LinkedIn profile. And this was COVID, right? So like this was the time when COVID was at peak. So other than LinkedIn, there's no other way of growing a network. That's why I put all my effort into LinkedIn, and that was the only way I could do things. And so when I was starting my LLM, I was already thinking of an articling position, because I knew that this was going to be a difficult process. I wasn't even like a student yet at UBC, and I was emailing their careers department asking like, how much help like can you provide me when I'm looking for an articling position, and like what I can do now to like start, you know, because yeah, like I have, I like to be prepared, and like I know when something's going to be difficult and how much work will go into it. So that was the time I already started thinking about it and starting to do whatever I could to prepare myself. Like, for example, creating a LinkedIn account, starting adding connections on LinkedIn in like um the city I want to practice in, the areas of law I want to practice in, following like lawyers, maybe even around the world, who are like influencer kind of lawyers who give a lot of free advice on LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
doing that. So yeah, I would say my recommendation is start as early as you can, whatever it might be, in whatever way it might be. Like for example, I tried my best to start as early as possible.
So when you actively started looking, how much time did it take for you to secure an articling
Sure.
position?
Yeah, so I received my certificate of qualification in November of 2021,
Mhm.
and I started my articling position in June of 2022. So it
Mhm.
took me about let's say around like 8 months, I think.
Wow.
8 to 9 months. And yeah, and that was after doing everything I could have before. And yeah, that's what I can say. It's like, and that was not unusual. When I talked to other lawyers and I talked to other internationally trained lawyers, they said that yeah, it's not unusual. Yeah. So if somebody, if any NCA students are looking for articling positions, and it's taking a while, I would say that there's a lot of things you need to keep doing for a very long period of time, without losing hope.
So when you started trying for articling positions, did you stick to Vancouver or did you also feel like applying to smaller cities for like small size firms? Or were you very like sure that this is where I want to practice, so this is where I will be articling?
Yeah, so I think when I started looking, obviously I started with Vancouver, then it then it extended to like Langley, then it extended to some other like Kamloops. But obviously my priority was always Vancouver, but here and there might have been one application that I used to hear like once a month, maybe I, maybe sent an application for something outside Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like yeah, at that time I was trying to decide, am I ready? Like, would I be ready if I get an article position? Would I be ready to move? And I was leaving that decision up to a future me. If I got that articling position, like let him decide that. Like, obviously at that time, I don't know if I got a position outside of Vancouver, if I'd have moved or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody, if somebody's like, if an NCA student gets an articling position outside of Vancouver, and they're not really invested into Vancouver, they don't have a lot of family here, family is not a problem, and they're pretty flexible. I would say, yeah, why not? Like, go to these small cities. Like, it might even be easier to like become, to grow in those small cities, I'm sure. So yeah.
So, in your journey now, if you want to advise any internationally trained lawyer how they should approach figuring out how to article, how to get a position, what are your top five things that you will tell them to keep in mind?
So the first would be like networking. Networking is always, for me, it's always the biggest one. um and in networking you can have multiple points, like there's multiple points that go into networking. So I would say LinkedIn is a point in itself. And how I advise people to use LinkedIn is, um so there's an option to filter on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So the easiest way is like choosing, first of all, searching for, what I did. I was interested in employment law and immigration law. So I used to search up immigration lawyer on LinkedIn, the search bar. And then, I'll obviously filter with people. Then I used to filter the city I want, so Vancouver. And
Mm-hmm.
then like I would get all the immigration lawyers in Vancouver, just connect everybody. So just, and then I also started like posting content on LinkedIn to like to let these lawyers know I'm out there
Mm-hmm.
without messaging them like directly. So this was like an indirect way of letting them know I'm out there, because messaging people directly right off the start, it's people are a little like, like they're skeptical. So if indirectly, if people can get to know you, not, I understand not everybody is like comfortable posting on LinkedIn, not everybody knows how to post on LinkedIn. That's part of what I offer my clients is, how to use LinkedIn and stuff like that. So yeah, creating your presence on LinkedIn. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to you're trying to enter the radar of the legal community where you want to work, and in the area of law or whatever it might be. So doing that, like really optimizing LinkedIn for that. And so what, other things you can do is polish up your resume and cover letters. So that's also, um so I can there are a few areas where if you can strengthen yourself as an NCA student, you can really improve your NCA, your articling chances. Networking, I already said, is one of them,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of NCA students, focus on the NCA exams and then start looking for an articling position. So you're already missed like the whole year or two of you could have been building. So that's one, building, um, networking, LinkedIn, and resume and cover letters also where NCA students, international lawyers fall short. Really polishing up your cover letter and your resume, having it reviewed by by whether it's another internationally trained lawyer who's working in Canada right now, whether it's me, because that's something, another thing I do, I review and create resumes. What else? So there's that. Another point could be, so language. I would say language is a big thing. So, just trying to understand like how Canadian legal professional they write and they speak,
Mm-hmm.
like because culture, like even though I hate it, I don't like the reality, but the cultural aspect comes into play. It comes into play. Like if there is a internationally trained lawyer and there's a domestic lawyer or law student, everything is the same. Like everybody's qualified the exact same, resumes are the exact same. But if they feel like, okay, this domestic student or lawyer can adapt a little better to our firm,
Mm-hmm.
then they might not say that's the reason when they make the decision. But I've seen it happen, and like even though I hate, like I want to help change that in the profession, but at this moment, like I'm not in a position to do that. Like I'm still starting, and but I'm aware of that, and so what I would advise internationally trained lawyers is trying to minimize that factor of knowing of like basically trying to understand how they think here, how they speak here, and trying to just play that, to just play that against them. I would say.
Do you
um
think accent could be like a deciding factor?
Accent shouldn't be, at this point, this maybe like 20, 15, 20 years ago, it could have been a factor, but I think now it shouldn't be a factor. So I think this comes to my next point. My next point is knowing how to like create like um how to show your strengths, how to present yourself
Mm-hmm.
as, okay, I'm different, but I'm unique, I'm better. Like, I might not be a domestic law student, but I'm even better. Like I offer more than a domestic law student. So that could involve, your extensive litigation experience in India. Like a law student here who's looking for an article student position that doesn't have that experience. Internationally trained lawyer might have litigation experience. They speak multiple languages. Like they have a global awareness. Like multiple languages, multiple cultures. Canada is a bunch of immigrants. Canada isn't like, it's not completely local people. As Canada is, like if you see what represents Canada, it's Indians and Pakistanis and like Chinese and like many other people. So
Yeah.
diversity is a strength. It shouldn't be a weakness. Diversity is a strength. So another fact about me is, so I have a visual impairment, so I have a visual disability. So that's another factor for me of overcoming like challenges, overcoming like barriers. And I use, that could, on the face of it, that could be perceived as, okay, that's something I need to overcome, or that's another challenge. But I try to use that as a strength, and I try to use that as, it makes me even better candidate because of the perspectives I have of the world, of life, due to my personal experiences. So yeah, that's another thing, bring up personal experiences. It's not everybody has gone through what immigrant to Canada has gone through.
Yeah.
And so it's and I totally get like that not everybody is able to do that perfectly, to be able to identify their own strengths. So that's that's another thing that when I work with internationally trained lawyers on their resumes, on advice on networking, is I try from as a second person to talk to people. For example, if it was you, like to talk, I would talk to you. I understand who you are and what you've done, and then relay that back to you. These are your strengths, this is what you should highlight in interviews. Because that's also another key in interviews, is highlighting your strengths. your not just your like on your resume, like, I've done this project, I've done this, like your professional skills, but also what makes you unique, like, because there are other people who might have experience in law, but not everybody has your unique characteristics, your unique qualities, your unique personal experiences that makes you like uncomparable and completely unique. So that's what I try to like advise my clients is like just make yourself as like if they don't hire you, they are at a loss. Like
Mm.
they should want you. Like you have so much value that create a brand. So you're creating a brand, that's at the end of the day, that's what I try to do is create a personal brand, which is people need you. People would want you in their firm to make it better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a lot of information. But just to summarize, you as a coach for internationally trained lawyers, so you do offer like a cover letter, resume services, and then
Yeah. So I offer the all range of services. So at for every stage of the process. So, start with I do NCA tutoring. And then I offer, a big a big demand is articling assistance, help for searching for articles. So I do that, everything I've said today, including that and other things. So I help NCA students find articling positions. I help them, figuring out whatever questions, issues they have, networking, creating a brand, um, you know, any other coaching guidance, like where to go in your career. So any questions, any advice that, resume, cover letter, interview preparation, mock interviews. So basically I help with the entire journey of going from an NCA student to being a lawyer. I try to be that resource because I wish I had somebody like that for myself because I had to go to different places for different resources. So what I'm trying to do is be that one resource that helps. There's like a support, there's like a partner, a coach, from the beginning of the process till the end. I also provide like I have since I've built my network, I have my network as well. So like introducing internationally trained lawyers to people I know who they might benefit with. So yeah, doing all of that.
so
Yeah.
on an ending note, any motivational words for people who are watching, anything that you'd want to say?
Yeah. I would my thing would be that everybody who's trying to become a lawyer in Canada is going to become a lawyer. Like if you are in your NCA process, you'll get through that. Eventually, it might take you some time. Maybe you'll get through it the first time, maybe you won't, but you'll get through that. You will find an articling position, like it might take you a month, maybe. Like who knows? It might take you a month, it might take you 8 months. You'll get through that. So my advice would honestly just be like focus on just getting through that one process that each stage, if you're an NCA, just get through that. And then the articling stage, just get through that. Do whatever you can to prepare for the next stage. Like if you start thinking about the whole process, when you will get to the end of the tunnel, it gets overwhelming. Like, for me, it got overwhelming. So like what I can say is focus on the little stage you're at. And if you will get there eventually, like everybody will. And if you can get some kind of a mentor, some kind of resource to like help you get, to like so that your stress is a little decreased, that okay, at least I have somebody to like I can rely on,
Mm-hmm.
you know that would be my last bit of advice.
Mm-hmm. So with that, we come to an end of this conversation. Thank you so much for us for taking out a
No,
good chunk of time and
thank you for having me.
helping me and all the people who are watching.